चलो मोटू, बाय बाय. Life is very short. Do whatever you want right at this moment. Don't push it for the future thinking there will be a better time. There will not be a better time.
There it goes. We'll see if it gets there before me or if I get there before it.
I run a kids home. Been doing it for the last 14 years. It's only at night when you're in your bed, in your room, that's when I really miss them. That's when I realise their absence.
My mum grew up in India. She grew up in Banbasa, where back in those days there was nothing, right? It was proper jungle. You know, I grew up hearing mum's stories of tigers, you know, and hunting and travelling up to the mountains, to the Himalayas in a basket on the back of a horse. Growing up hearing these stories, I guess, it influenced me. Nicely done.
Every mother maintains a kind of baby book. I was going through it once, and at 4 years, my mom had written that loves riding on his daddy's scooter, loves speed. Coming from a Parsi household, motorcycles were a way of life. When I was 8 years old, I used to consume books like food. I read this book called The A Book of the Car. It was this whole Bible of how automobiles work. I read it cover to cover. So even today, when I have a car driving, I can visualize what's happening in the engine, what's happening, how things are happening, all that. So, and for me, two-wheelers and speed and motorcycles was something that I just couldn't wait to become 13 years old, you know.
Morning guys, welcome to the first edition of the Himalayan Adventure Longbook. So the first day we're doing Kathmandu to Trishuli. The next day is when we're going from Trishuli, we're crossing the border.
Always try and ride with one other person, right? Don't ride alone. So if in case something goes wrong, there's somebody to help you.
Always look out for the guy you're bunking with.
उसको बोलने का है, नॉर्थ वेस्ट जाने का है।
सिरिरी हावा बग्यो सुस्तरी एकान्त दुनियाँमा फेरि मलाई उडाइ लग्यो उडिरहेको भुवा जस्तै अनन्त आकाशमा बगाइ लग्यो जाँदैछु
water crossing, and this is what happened. We are all wet now with 2 liters of water in our boots. Enjoying that.
आउने दिनहरू कसलाई के थाहा म त अहिलेको लागि नमी बाँचिरहेछु सपनीलाई खोज्दा खोज्दै आफूलाई नै भुले
Nobody at RE sees that, okay?
Let's take this and go back like this. Yes. Okay?
To balance the roles of being a friend as well as being the lead for the ride as such, it's actually, I don't find it tricky at all.
I met Santosh for the first time on this ride. He brings in so much of riding experience with him. So much of stories. Just sit near to him and hear his stories. You can think of that, okay, how much more I have in my life to do now.
There were times when I was riding right behind him and the two of us would just peel away. We used to just go around these corners in a symphony, you know. I would really keep up with him and he'd be riding ahead and it was just perfect to follow him.
I don't like to look for great meanings out of life. For me, yes, it's good to have a end point, but if you don't enjoy the journey, there's no point in searching for an answer. I think the biggest thing I learn is humility. It doesn't maybe show on my face, but I've actually, I think riding with most people become humble because some of these guys have stories that you can't imagine. Like Siddharth.
Chalo Motu. Bye bye.
This was 2,500 kilometers almost. And I had to cover that in 3 days. So that was a bit challenging because anything can go wrong at any moment. If I just want to go to Everest base camp, I can directly fly to Lhasa, take a motorcycle from there and go to Everest base camp. It's hardly 3 days journey. But you know that feeling of doing something from start to end and on your own motorcycle, not a rented one. That's a different feel altogether.
For Siddharth to ride from Bangalore to Kathmandu on its own is no small thing.
He's bought that bike and he is fulfilling the bike's karma, you know. He is really using the bike to do stuff that the bike is meant for. So if the bike could talk, the bike would really thank him. I mean, hats off to him here, really, to have so much confidence in his motorcycle and to ride all the way from Bangalore to base camp.
To do that is epic, but the whole ride from Bangalore to Kathmandu was solo.
I think some 100 kilometers before Kathmandu, 2 guys on a bike jumped on the road. And I braked hard, and I braked really hard. I fell on my right, so my leg got stuck between the bike and the road. Luckily, the crash guard saved a lot. Stayed there for like 15-20 minutes. Recovered myself from that crash. And the only fear I had that time was not of the injury, not of falling there. The only thing was running on my mind that I should not get hurt so badly that I cannot continue the ride.
picked himself up, saw to himself, saw to his own bike, and got back on the road and kept rolling. And like that's pretty inspiring. That's pretty gutsy.
Crossing to China was another challenge for everyone. Everyone was having in their mind that they will deny entry for anyone randomly.
See, there's nothing is ever completely under control. Things change, but you can always work around them. You run out of petrol, you can work around it. You have a motorcycle problem, you can work around it. If somebody has a fall, you can get him to medical attention. But this whole thing of getting the visa, if you don't get it, then it's basically all 11 people who've gone there for that have to come back.
Alright, so we just got across the border. Fortunately, everything went well. Got our luggage back, the bikes are through. We had to push them across the gate.
Kilometers. And please ride on the right side. Right side, drive on the right side. Okay?
Right on the right side. Need to get used to that. That's going to be a process. It's habit, muscle memory. Need to remember to stay on the right side. And we'll take it one step at a time thereafter.
We are in the town. Yeah. Oi. Oi. Chai ching le chirong ko. Chirong tun. How the.
Fat stacks of Benjamins.
Good morning, everybody. And Tashi Dele. Tashi Dele.
Is she hot?
Good morning. Tashi Dele, it's hello. Like namaste. So today we are riding for 270 kilometers. Our destination is a paved road. And after 100 kilometers from here, we reach at Gungthang La Pass. And my biggest request for you is totally not allowed to take any banners and the flag of any countries. When you drive on the villages, slow down. Don't say that I tried to horn and that kid comes to me, that yak comes to me. For one sheep, 2,000 yuan. For one cow, 5,000 yuan. For yak, 12,000 yuan. Because you're doing for your job, that is for my life. Any checkpost, please don't raise your camera or don't try to take any photos. Okay?
I've skydived 3 times, okay? I've skydived thrice. And every time I've gone in a plane up to 15,000 feet, okay? At 12,000 feet, they've given me oxygen, okay? Because it's a non-pressurized plane, okay? And then at 15,000 feet, we've jumped. But we were riding our motorcycles at 17,500 feet. So we were riding higher than where I've jumped out of a plane. Imagine that. 2,000 feet higher than what I jumped out of a plane. We were riding at that altitude. I mean, come on, yeah. If that can't give you a high, what can?
There's something problem going on. So from 6 o'clock last night, they closed this petrol station. So right now, it's not able to fill the petrol.
So it seems that somebody came and filled up fuel in drums, which is an absolutely no-no in China. And then the cops caught them. And then they came back over here, checked the CCTV cameras, and they shut the whole pump down. Now the problem is that the next pump is 60 kilometers that way. So none of us have that much fuel to go to 60 kilometers. And the next pump that way is 270 kilometers. So we're pretty much stuck here till we get this problem sorted out. Anyway, good. There's good food over there.
Bikes that can probably make it, we fill up those bikes. And the rest of the bikes we load up. Ride 200 kilometers. Hopefully we'll find some petrol there.
Now front fork.
Thank you everyone.
Now wait.
Now grab as much as possible from the frame that's attached to the bike, not the pannier.
1, 2, 3.
Somebody go and put on center stand.
Luckily, it worked for us. We just managed to reach the next petrol bunk.
I was 83 kilometers on reserve. On F.
Thank you so much.
100 तक तो पहुंच जाता है.
I like to think that when I walk into a room, especially here in India, people see me as a tourist, but it doesn't take long for them to realize that there's definitely some local in me, right? मैं देसी आदमी तो हूँ.
नमस्ते. ओ मामू. ठीक हो?
इधर तो नहीं है.
इधर है ही की है छोटी है.
As soon as I bust out the Hindi, यार लोग तो चौंक जाते हैं, पागल हो जाते हैं.
Sometimes when he talks Hindi, you know, sometimes your mind just cannot put it together. कि क्या हो क्या रहा है भाई, you know, that way. I would see him running up mountainsides and jumping off his bike and taking pictures, taking it really.
It's like he's always 200% charged. His battery never goes down. When we gained the altitude, everyone's body was behaving weirdly.
You know, रॉन्ग बुक वाले राइड में तो inexperienced राइडर तो सबसे पहले तो आ नहीं सकता है. It was not a picnic or, you know, just an easy ride in the mountains, man. This was like, it was brutal.
Altitude mountain sickness is like a demon, you know. at 17,000 feet, at those altitudes, if it suddenly decides to spring on you, it can kill you here.
Mine was 108.
Oxygen, come here.
So I was very worried because when they put the oximeter, mine was showing 65% of oxygen, whereas everybody else was at 91, 85 and all that. I was quite worried.
7? 90 bitches!
So you have to really take it easy. Even putting on your shoes. I remember putting on one shoe, taking a break. Putting on a second shoe, taking a break. You know, stuff like that. You can't. Things that you would do jhatpat over here in Bombay will take you considerable amount of time over there because your oxygen supply is depleted by at least 40%. You know, and the body needs oxygen to function. Your muscle needs oxygen.
I think people forget the cold. Most of us have been to Leh Ladakh, especially during season time. It can get a little cold, but the cold here is something really different.
It looks so warm. It's not warm.
The injuries teach you to be a little safer.
Is it the neck? Between the shoulder blades.
First one was on a two-wheeler, not a motorcycle or cycle.
Man, there was a sound when I pushed the helmet on my head.
I fell pretty badly in the night. Something hit me at the back. There was swelling that was pressing against the nerves on the spinal cord, so I was partially paralyzed.
But sure.
So I have a implant through the bone, and when it gets really cold, it hurts a lot. In the beginning of this year, I tore the ligament in the ankle, and after that, contused my ribs, cracked 2 of them, and contused about 4 of them on the right side. So for about 3 months, I couldn't laugh. But every time that happens, I've tried to come back stronger to make sure that I'm better on the bike.
There are very few people who know about North Face. If you tell anyone that you are going to Everest base camp by motorcycle, the first reaction is, hey, we can only go via trekking, you can't ride a motorcycle there.
I didn't know much about the 8,000ers until then. Then I did a lot of reading up, and then you read about all the great climbers, Messner, Mallory, Hillary, and you just realize that these guys are way above normal human beings. They're like gods.
Everest is like this mystical place, you know. When you go to the Nepal side of the base camp, all you can see is the Khumbu icefall. To go to the northern side and ride all the way there. Plus, we'll be going to Rongbuk, which is where George Mallory climbed from in 1924, and I've been fascinated by that guy's story because for me to just stand in that very place where Mallory had stood over there and looked up at the peak and said and planned his whole route, for me that was the fascination, to stand at the very place that Mallory had did. Right? Yeah. Like sure? I was the eldest amongst the group. I was elder by at least 8 years. What I was really worried about is that, Are Baba, there's people thinking that ye Buddha aaya hai, this guy has come and he's holding us all back. There was this one part of me that illogically believed that, oh my God, if I go too high, my head will burst or I'll feel a pressure on my brain or something.
I actually heard someone talking along the way that there was somebody on the ride with TS. And rather than avoiding the elephant in the room, I just went straight up to him and said, oh, so you've got Tourette's. I'm Clifton, and hey, how are you? And he said, like, you know about Tourette's? And so I think immediately that brought some comfort between Rishad and me.
A long time back, I learned the hard way that I have this Tourette syndrome, right? And it is going to be with me for my life. I got this when I was 11 years old, but I realized what it's called when I was about 17 years old. So for 6 years, I didn't know what was wrong with me. My way of dealing with this was that anyway people are going to laugh at me. No, some people are going to laugh at me. So might as well use it to make it humorous.
Oh shit. It's not an electric guitar, is it?
He's a funny guy. He has hilarious stories. We were up late at night. We were sitting early morning.
Go to a Bombay local, then you know what personal space is.
He's got his stories from all over the world, and it makes such a difference to the experience of the whole ride when we have someone there who connects us, and that's what stories do.
Sometimes there are moments when I feel like this takes, like I have to close my eyes or I have to shake the handlebars. Or I take a moment, I close my eyes. Before I'm starting off, and I just tell myself about the things I need to be alive for. Okay, I'll think about my little niece. I'll think about some girl I like. When the bike becomes a part of my body, it's fine. These are things I want to live for.
So if you're not feeling well, then you can head to Tingri directly. If you are good, we can...
How's the diarrhea?
Good stop.
So I was determined that I am not going to stay back. So I took it easy that night. I drank enough water to put a camel to shame.
No one knew who all will go the next morning to Rongbuk, and yeah, luckily I could make it.
A life not put to test is not worth living.
Oh man, this altitude is nuts.
The entire night I couldn't sleep. I was running around to the toilet and literally shitting on the Everest base camp. And that place is not a place where you have a luxury of having an attached bathroom. It was a common bathroom almost outside your premises of hotel. You are already somewhere around -5, -6 temperature, and at that altitude, even taking 2 steps was hard.
My dad always wanted a Royal Enfield. For some reason, he couldn't. he didn't buy one. After engineering, I bought a Royal Enfield Machismo. My dad never ended up riding it, and I started riding it. I started using it for short rides around Bangalore, and then one thing led to the other. I was using the Enfield more than the other bikes. 2007. 7 is when I bought, and 2009 is when I joined the company. So it's pretty much been Royal Enfield after that. Yeah, I still have the motorcycle. I kind of call it ship of TCS now because pretty much everything on the motorcycle I've replaced or modified. So only the number plate is probably the same.
The whole sense of putting your trust in one motorcycle and riding there, and getting on it and riding for hours and hours and having confidence that that bike will get you there, for me that is motorcycling.
So much of the time we live in our little bubble. We live in the container of our lives. And motorcycles and motorcycling gives you a chance to get out of that. You can get out of that box and experience everything that this world has to offer, from the seat of your bike.
In a car, you'll be like a tourist. But when you're going there on a motorcycle, it's more like you traveled. You actually feel the cold wind biting into your skin. Like Robert Persig wrote, when you're in a car, it's like watching television. But when you're on a motorcycle, it's like starring in it. So I think on a motorcycle, you feel a lot more alive.
It really is Zen. You know what I mean? It is almost a spiritual experience. That is when you realize that why so many people say the word motorcycling and Zen together in one sentence.
I come from a very lower middle class kind of a background where both my parents were teachers in college. I lost my father at a very early age when I was just 14. But he made sure that every year we used to go on a vacation for 1 week and explore a new place. Once he left us, then everything got shattered and we couldn't do that, and it was a lot of struggle. I want to continue that legacy with me, and I want to give that to the next generation, to my wife, to my family, to my mother. Yeah, I think you can make me proud. Even I did a video call with my mom yesterday night. Today morning also, she always used to scream that why you ride so much, why you travel so much around. Seeing the Everest at the backdrop, she's like too much proud now. It's anytime good to hear your parents say that we were wrong and you were right. What you are doing is absolutely correct. Please keep on doing it. You would be very proud. One postcard is for him only. I don't know where to post, but yeah.
आजको यो रात फेरि मलाई रहरले बिमा सम्झायो कल्पनाहरू मेरो आँखा भरि जुनकेरी बनी छायो यो मिठो रात यतै बसिदे भए हुन्थ्यो बिहानी आउनु अघि भागी जाऊँ तिमी